look at the road sign ahead of me. I'm headed up north on Interstate 295 in New Jersey, and I'm taking the exit right now to Interstate 76 West, which is called the Schuylkill Expressway, and that's going to take me to the Walt Whitman Bridge across the Delaware River into Philadelphia. I'm hoping when I get on the bridge to stick one of my cameras out the sunroof and turn it to the right maybe, and get a decent image of what everyone says is visible from the bridge. You look north up the river and you'll see Pier 82 and the unmistakable profile of a 990-foot ocean liner moored right there. That's where I'm headed. She's the SS United States. Her keel was laid down in 1951, and until 1969 she made 400 crossings of the Atlantic Ocean, called almost by everybody who sailed on her our ship of state. She was the fastest ocean liner ever built, and she was the pride of the United States. So I'm coming to take a look at her for one last time today. I'm headed across the bridge now, and I'm going to try to see if I can't get the camera out the window and see if I could get a shot of the ship, I hope. So that right there is Philadelphia, and the skyline's ahead of us, so that's the destination. We shall see what we see. Oh yeah, I see the funnels. Those big tall funnels. She's about to go behind that power plant. That's where we're headed. So there'll be more to talk about there in a moment. I'll have to stop filming now to pay the toll going across the bridge. Welcome to Philadelphia, right? Everybody pays money. Right now, the footage right out through the windshield. There she is, SS United States. The reason I'm coming to see her one last time is that she'll be leaving maybe next month, within a matter of months. She'll go to Norfolk, where they will clean her, they will do some remediation, and then she'll be towed to the Destin, Florida area and sunk as an artificial reef. This doesn't look anything like the IKEA parking lot in Charlotte, does it? That's where I'm at. There's a strip mall here off South Columbus Boulevard, here in South Philadelphia. And right there is Pier 82, and that's the SS United States. Massive ship. You can't go in any of these stores without it dominating the skyline over here. And I was talking to a couple of folks at the Chick-fil-A next door. They don't pay much attention to it. They say, oh, we think it's going away. It is going away. The timeline isn't set. For over 10 years, the Conservancy, the SS United States Conservancy, has tried to save the ship. I've contributed money as I could. There were hopefully plans at one point to put her back into service. Norwegian Cruise Lines actually purchased her with that plan, and then they bailed on it. They said it was just going to be too cost prohibitive. Money comes into play quite often, and it certainly does in this story. There was talk about maybe in New York or Miami turning her into what the Queen Mary is in Long Beach, California, a hotel, convention center, a museum, a place that's moored permanently but is a tourist attraction. There was a lot of hope for that too. It turns out that was going to cost a couple $100 million, which sounds like a lot of money, does it not? Let's put it in perspective. Today's election day, and the bill for this presidential election is going to be just higher than $16 billion. When you're talking amounts like that, what's $100 million here or there? I mean, honestly, if you think about it. In 1951, when the ship's keel was laid down, she was a peacetime passenger liner that could be almost immediately, in case of war, turned into a troop transport. William Francis Gibbs noticed that after World War II, almost all of our soldiers had to come home on troop ships that belonged to other nations. And his goal, his dream, was to build the fastest, safest, most wonderful passenger liner ever built. So with military assistance and guidance, he lent his expertise to her design. The hull design, the engines, the propeller design are military secrets even today. No one knows how fast she actually went. It was a classified military secret. They didn't know. There's rumors that on her sea trials, she almost hit 50 knots. That's over 60 miles an hour on the water. Today, almost every cruise ship or merchant ship at most can sail 20 knots. The United States could go faster than that in reverse. She was and is an incredible ship. Absolutely. Gibbs was a fanatic about fire safety. So when he built the ship, there was no wood. He didn't want any wood at all. The funnels are aluminum. As much of the superstructure as could be was made out of aluminum. All the interior furnishings, handrails, doorknobs, they were made out of aluminum. He wanted to save as much weight as possible. But his big thing was no wood, because he had seen what happened when the SS Normandy burnt at the pier in New York City, and he wanted his ship to be safe. He knew what fire meant on a ship. So there was no wood except, as the folklore has it, the butcher blocks in the galley and the Steinway pianos. He actually asked Steinway if they could build him an aluminum piano. And apparently the folks at Steinway had him up, and they took a Steinway piano and they poured lighter fluid, kerosene, something on it, and lighted it, and it didn't burn. So he said, well, okay, you can have a Steinway piano. And they had two on the ship. I believe two. One in the first class lounge, one in the cabin class lounge. That was his dream. And when she entered service on her maiden voyage to Europe, she broke the transatlantic speed record, shattered it, that the Queen Mary held. It's called the Blue Riband, or Blue Riband. It's a passenger liner goal that fastest ship carrying passengers owns this trophy. And the United States won it going east to Southampton, her first voyage. She turned around in Southampton and came back to New York, and she shattered the westbound. She was truly a magnificent ship in her day. 400 crossings of the Atlantic from 1952 to 1969. And in 1969, she went to Norfolk for what was supposed to be an annual overhaul. And the company made the decision to mothball her. She wasn't making money. There's that name again, that idea that comes into play so often. By 1969, let's not forget, Boeing had the 707 in service. Douglas had the DC-8 in service. So instead of going to Europe in 3 days, 10 hours, and 40-some minutes, you could go to Europe in what, 6 hours, 8 hours? That sort of doomed the entire transatlantic passenger liner. Many had to be remade, and they were made into, well, this is opulence. Take your time, get there rested, we'll wine you, we'll dine you, that sort of thing. But, you know, according to the ships and the U.S. line and others like that, it's tough to turn a dime that way, they say. So they went to Norfolk, they laid her up. Eventually she came here in the 1970s and was here for 10, 15 years. One of the downfalls was that to save weight and to build a ship without wood in the 1950s, William Francis Gibbs did what everybody else did. He loaded that ship with asbestos. It was everywhere, because in the 1950s, that was this miracle fire retardant material. You may not know this, but in the movie The Wizard of Oz, where the snow starts falling when they're going through the field of poppies, that's asbestos flakes drifting down over the actors. That's what we did back in the 1950s. In the 1990s, the ship was towed to Turkey, and in Turkey and Ukraine, amid two harbors there, all the asbestos was removed. Everything was remediated. So she came home clean. Inside, she's an empty shell that could be built out however anybody wants it. But again, the Conservancy talked to all kinds of people since 2013 at its inception. Across the bridge area, for a long time there was a banner, SOS, Save Our Ship, because she is truly a United States icon. She's a national treasure that was in danger of being sent to India to be scrapped, broken up for razor blades. At least that's not going to happen. The contract that's been signed by the Conservancy with Okaloosa County, Florida, that's where Destin is that the ship will leave here, go to Norfolk, be completely remediated in all environmental contaminants, towed to the Gulf of Mexico, and somewhere off of Destin, she will be sunk as the world's largest artificial reef. It's not the ending some of us wished. It's not the ending I wish we could have for such a grand icon. And she is. Some people say I'm getting emotional or nostalgic over a boat. Well, there's boats and then there's boats. And this one, as you look at some of the footage, you'll know. I've got some stock footage I'm going to interweave in here. She was incredible. And no less than people like Walter Cronkite remarked that it was almost a crime she was left here to disintegrate, to deteriorate, to be ignored. One of her former crewmen said, I hope they don't ever scrap her. Instead of that, I hope they just take her out to sea and sink her. They're going to. That's what's going to happen. So my whole thing was to come here one last time and just to look at her, to see her. She's 12 stories tall right here from the waterline. Think about that in terms we understand. The two office buildings on East Independence Boulevard, one of them used to be known as the Irvin Building. I don't remember the name of the other building, the one with the gold windows. The tops of the funnels are as tall as those two office buildings. She is longer than the Titanic was. I don't know what it's going to do. And oddly enough, after just sitting here for 30 years, in the last 5 years, an underwater hull assessment was done, and they said her steel at this point, 60-some years later, her steel is at 92% original strength and thickness. 92%. That's because she was so massively overbuilt and so well designed. And to think that this is going to pass from us saddens me greatly. I'm going to walk on the other side later on, and I'll intersperse that footage in too, just to see it. But we're letting this pass. Why? Because it would cost $200 million to do something about it. If she were a warship, we wouldn't bat an eyelash. Look at all the Iowa-class battleships. They're museums. The North Carolina is a museum. The Alabama, the Massachusetts, the South Dakota, they're all museums. The Texas is a museum. The aircraft carriers that were laid up, decommissioned, and yet became museums, Midway, Intrepid. Although there's talk about turning Enterprise into a museum, they just can't figure out how to do it yet because Enterprise was an odd design. She's got 8 nuclear reactors instead of 2, and they don't know how to safely decommission 8 nuclear reactors, and yet people are saying, it's the Enterprise, it's an aircraft carrier, we've got to save her. But for a ship built for peaceful purposes, nah, let her go. Really? It's too much money. And God, don't we hear that in church too often? Every time somebody has an idea and does something ugly, and you know what I'm talking about, baling wire, chewing gum, this half-assed repair on this or that, and you go, what have you done? What do you get back? Well, to do it right would have cost extra. It would have cost extra. We couldn't afford it. We're saying that with a symbol of our nation. And that does sadden me. It saddens me greatly. You know, you hear me say everything is spiritual, and I'm saying it here. Jesus said where your money is, where your treasure is, that's where your heart is. Well, some of my treasure went to try to help save her. And at least she's not going to the breakers. At least she's not going to be turned into disposable razor blades for your Gillette or your shit that you'll use 7 or 8 times and then throw away. Divers will love her. The ecosystem in Florida will love her. There'll be fish all around her. So that's saying something. But not everybody's going to get a chance to see her like that. Maybe to walk the decks. I wish I could have been up here about a month ago when there was a tour for Conservancy members. I couldn't make it. I don't remember what was hanging me up, but I couldn't make it for then, and there was no way to line up a way to get inside. This is a Homeland Security Zone 1 area behind that fence. I've had to go and ask permission and everything to be where I am so that the Homeland Security van doesn't show up and go, what are you doing? Are you a terrorist? Type thing. So I get to see her one last time, and you get to see her through me, but you know, why can't we save things like this? And why are we so quick to save your ships? I don't get that. Why are we so quick to spend so much money on the military and defense, and yet we say we're too poor to do the right thing for the arts, for education, to help those less fortunate? I believe very little that the Republican Party is saying right now, but I agree with them on one thing. We can't afford so much of what we're doing. We really can't. The problem is they want to pay it they want to spend it on the wrong stuff. How we save the money, that's the way we do it. I've got a plan right now. I'd love for somebody in Washington to listen to me. Let's mothball half of our aircraft carrier battle groups. Half of them. We have 11. No other nation on the planet has more than 2. Why do we need so many? Unless we want to continue being the bully of the world. And why can't we put a couple $100 million into something as grand as this lady did? She looks old. She looks deteriorated. One naval architect said, you know what, that's just paint. Sandblaster painter, she'll look brand new. She'll probably sail like she's brand new. Well, that's not going to happen. So, 580 some miles to walk to a strip mall and down a dirty sidewalk in South Philadelphia to say goodbye. Yeah, it was worth it for me. So, there's going to be more footage in this, some more ideas, but it's bittersweet, and that's the main thing I learned here. I'm so glad they're not going to just chop her up willy-nilly. I hate we weren't able to save her, and I'm not alone in that. I know that. Could have been worse. That's what they say in Lake Wobegon. Could have been worse. But it's still bittersweet knowing what it is. So, from South Philadelphia, the SS United States, get a good look, because you're not going to see her soon. She'll be gone. And I'm going to close with something the Conservancy did a few years back. The guitarist named Jeff Skunk Baxter. He was one of the original Doobie Brothers. He played guitar with Steely Dan for some time. You're going to hear him play America the Beautiful, and you're going to see the ship where a lighting artist lighted the funnels, the radar mast where you can see the flag flying from, and the bridge one evening as the sun set. And you'll listen to him play America the Beautiful, and you'll get a good look at her. You'll probably know why so many people call her the lady in waiting. So, more to come, obviously. Everything really is spiritual. It really is. Case in point, being in Philadelphia with a biblical idea. Where our money is, where our treasure is, it's where our hearts are. That's it. Well, I keep messing the video up. So it's just going to be a mess. One camera will stop, the sound will stop. I had sound problems with the mic, but suffice it to say that I'm just kind of here to say goodbye. I really believe this ship is one of our national icons. She bears our name, United States. She bore it proudly for 400 crossings of the Atlantic Ocean. And she broke speed records almost every time she sailed. She looks fast just being moored here. And even dilapidated as she looks, she's still strong. The hull's 92% of original thickness and strength. She could be saved. She could be. Yeah, it would be expensive. I've said that before too. Here's my comparison. Let me say it one more time. It's election day and the polls are going to close in about 3 hours, and that means we're going to tally up that we spent $16 billion electing a man or a woman that half of us aren't going to care for. What's 200 million, 300 million compared to 16 billion? I mean, really. Yeah, I know the scale. We get a little crazy about that, especially in the church we do. Because every time we do something dumb, foolish, ugly, you know, our rationale is always, well, anything else that would have cost extra. Oh, no, that would have cost extra. We never sort of say, let's spend that little extra and not do something ugly. We don't. And that gets back to the heart of the gospel where Jesus says, where your treasure is, where your pocketbook is, that's where your heart is. Let me be prideful for a moment. I'm proud and I'm glad I've given money to the Conservancy. I haven't given a whole lot, a drop in the bucket, what I could afford, but I'm glad I've given something. But that I've got some skin in this game. And I'm glad that it's not the ending we were looking for, but at least she's not going to be made into razor blades. So it could have been worse. So take a look. I hope everybody's taking a look from IKEA and from the other stores around here. She's not going to be here much longer. I just heard from an artist making a painting. They think she's going to leave in the next week or so. Probably go to Mobile, Alabama, not to Norfolk for remediation. That's closer to the Destin area. And then they'll take her to Destin when she's cleaned and gently let her settle into the waves. It's not going to be a TV splash, explosions, tilting up, Titanic drama. They're going to open the seacocks and let her gently settle. Not a bad way to go. If she's got to go. Too bad she does. But again, better than a lot, better than it could have been. Better ending than her sister ship America that is rotting off of a South American coast where she hit a reef, broke in two, and everybody just walked away and let her sit there. And finally, the stern is completely underwater and the bow is only above water at high tide. Could be worse. So I'm here to say goodbye. Let you say goodbye too. A November afternoon in Philadelphia, and it's almost 80 degrees. November is strange weather, but it's absolutely gorgeous. So enjoy her with me, and I'll see you next week when I get home.
As it started to get dark, you saw the light on those funnels, and then the light in the radar mast, and then the light in the bridge.